Okay, so this seems to be a okay story. This is the story of Muhammad Din, and it's part of the collection of plain tales from the hills by Rudyard Kipling. So here it goes. The polo ball was an old one, scarred, chipped, and dinted. It stood on the mantelpiece among the pipe stems which Imam Din Khidmatgar was cleaning for me. Does the heaven born want this ball? Asked Imam Din deferentially. He is referring to the Englishman as heaven born. The heaven born set no particular store by it, but of what use was a polo ball to a Khidmatgar? By your honor's favor, I have a little son. He has seen this ball and desires to play with it. I do not want it for myself. So the Khidmatgar is cleaning the mantle piece, and there he saw the ball, and he is asking the heaven born whether he wants it. The heaven born says he does not. So, but why? What is the use of a polo ball to the Khidmatgar? So he says, by your honor's favor, I have a little son. He has seen this ball and desires to play with it. I do not want it for myself. No one would for an instant accuse portly old Imam Din of wanting to play with polo balls. He carried out the battered thing into the veranda, and there followed a hurricane of joyful squeaks, a patter of small feet, and the thud, thud, thud of the ball rolling along the ground. Evidently, the little son had been waiting outside the door to secure this treasure. But how had he managed to see the polo ball? Next day, coming back from office half an hour earlier than usual, I was aware of a small figure in the dining room, a tiny plump figure in a ridiculously inadequate shirt which came perhaps halfway down the tubby stomach. It wandered round the room, thumb in mouth, crooning to itself as it took stock of the pictures. Undoubtedly, this was the little son. Next day, coming back from office half an earlier, he had no business in my room, of course, but was so deeply absorbed in his discoveries that he never noticed me in the doorway. I stepped on the ground with a gasp. Oh, I'm sorry. I stepped into the room and startled him nearly into a fit. He sat down on the ground with a gasp. His eyes opened and his mouth followed suit. I knew what was coming and fled, followed by a long dry howl which reached the servants' quarters far more quickly than any command of mine had ever done. In 10 seconds, Imam Din was in the dining room. Then despairing sobs arose, and I returned to find Imam Din admonishing the small sinner who was using most of his shirt as a handkerchief. This boy, said Imam Din judicially, is a badmash, a big badmash. He will without doubt go to the jail khana for his behavior. This is what the Khidmatgar told about that little child. He says he's a badmash, means a bad character, and he'll go to jail for his bad behavior. renewed yells from the penitent, and an elaborate apology to myself from the Imamdeen. Tell the baby, said I, that the Sahib is not angry, and take him away. Imamdeen conveyed my forgiveness to the offender, who had now gathered all his shirt round his neck, string-wise, and the yell subsided into a sob. The two set off for the door. His name, said Imamdeen, as though the name were part of the crime, is Muhammad Deen, and he is a badmash. Freed from the present danger, Muhammad Din turned around in his father's arms and said gravely, "It is true that my name is Muhammad Din, Sahib, but I am not a badmash. I am a man." From that day dated my acquaintance with Muhammad Din. Never again did he come into my dining room, but on the neutral ground of the garden, we greeted each other with much state, though our conversation was confined to Salam Taib from his side and Salam Muhammadin from my side. Daily on my return from office, the little white shirt and the fat little body used to rise from the shade of the creeper-covered trellis where they had been hid, and daily I checked my horse here, that my salutation might not be slurred over or given unseemly. Muhammadin never had any companions. He used to trot about the compound, in and out of the castor oil bushes, on mysterious errands of his own. One day I stumbled upon some of his handiwork far down the grounds. He had half buried the polo ball in the dust and stuck 6 shriveled old marigold flowers in a circle round it. Outside that circle again was a rude square, traced out in bits of red brick, alternating with fragments of broken china, and the whole bounded by a little bank of dust. The waterman from the well curb put in a plea for the small architect, saying that it was only the play of a baby and did not much disfigure my garden. Heaven knows that I had no intention of touching the child's work then or later. But that evening, a stroll through the garden brought me unawares full on it, so that I trampled, before I knew, the marigold heads, dust bank, and fragments of broken soap dish into confusion past all hope of mending. Next morning, I came upon Muhammadin crying softly to himself over the ruin I had wrought. Someone had cruelly told him that the Sahib was very angry with him for spoiling the garden, and had scattered the rubbish, using bad language all the while. Muhammadin labored for an hour at effacing every trace of the dust bank and pottery fragments, and it was with a tearful and apologetic face that he said Salam Taib when I came home from office. A hasty inquiry resulted in Imamdeen informing Muhammadin that by my singular favor he was permitted to disport himself as he pleased. Whereat the child took heart and fell to tracing the ground plan of an edifice which was to eclipse the marigold polo ball creation. For some months, the chubby little eccentricity revolved in his humble orbit among the castor oil bushes and in the dust, always fashioning magnificent palaces from stale flowers thrown away by the bearer, smooth water-worn pebbles, bits of broken glass, and feathers pulled, I fancy, from my falls. Always alone and always crooning to himself. A gaily spotted seashell was dropped one day close to the last of his little buildings, and I looked that Mohammedan should build something more than ordinarily splendid, and I looked that Mohammedan should build something more than ordinarily splendid on the strength of that gaily spotted seashell. Nor was I disappointed. He meditated for the better part of an hour, and his crooning rose to a jubilant song. Then he began tracing in the dust. It will certainly be a wondrous palace, this one, for it was 2 yards long and a yard broad in ground plan. But the palace was never completed. Next day there was no Muhammadin at the head of the carriage drive, and no Talam Taib to welcome my return. I had grown accustomed to the greeting, and its omission troubled me. Next day, Imam Din told me that the child was suffering slightly from fever and needed quinine. He got the medicine and an English doctor. They have no stamina, these brats, said the doctor. So as he left Imam Din's quarters, the doctor said, these brats have no stamina. A week later, though, I would have given much to have avoided it. A week later, though I would have given much to have avoided it, I met on the road to the Mussalman burying ground Imam Din, accompanied by one other friend, carrying in his arms, wrapped in a white cloth, all that was left of little Muhammadin. Oh, it's a tragic tale of the story of Muhammadin. That's it. Oh, let's find the brighter story somewhere.